A USB device with at least high of storage space is required first because it will be completely erased during setup. Make sure there are no vital files on it. Next, we will download and set up a program named Rufus. You may make bootable USB drives using the tool Rufus. With this, we can set up the operating system of our choice, which for this video is Windows. But we can also use Rufus to make a bootable USB drive for the Ubuntu operating system or any other variant of Linux. The operating system's ISO file is the last thing we need to make a USB bootable device. You may have purchased the Windows 10 ISO file from a reliable provider, or you may simply want to test the operating system to see whether it is one you want to buy later. In either case, you can download the 90-day trial edition of the Windows 10 operating system. We are ready to enter our USB drive. After doing so, the device section will display the name of our USB drive. We can choose our ISO file from the boot selection, which is located beneath that. Go to the location of your ISO file and press select. For the Windows operating system, the GPT partitioning strategy is advised. You could use NTFS for the file system if you chose GPT. Additionally, you can designate the volume on your USB drive. Once all those settings have been completed, all that is left to do is click Start. In order to make the computer load the operating system from the USB rather than the hard drive, we must change the boot order of our target computer. Based on how recent your computer is, either the BIOS or UEFI firmware governs the boot sequence. A priority list is the order of the boots. If USB drive is listed above hard drive, for instance, your computer will first attempt to start from the USB drive. But if it's not connected or an operating system is not installed, it will then attempt to boot from the hard disk. You must restart your computer or start it up while holding down a specific key at the beginning of the boot process in order to reach the BIOS. Typically, during boot up, this key is shown to the screen. For instance, you might notice a message instructing you to press Del to enter setup or press F2 to access the BIOS. Do as instructed and your computer's BIOS will show up. On every machine, this procedure will appear differently. You can follow these directions to walk through the procedure, but it won't look exactly like this. Delete and F2 are generally the most frequently used keys, but your computer can also need F1, Escape, or Control plus Alt plus Escape. Consult your machine's manual or perform a Google search for the model's name of your computer and BIOS key if you can see the necessary key on screen. Look for a boot option menu while you are in the BIOS or UEFI firmware menu. If you are lucky, the screen will have a tab labeled Boot at the top. If not, you could find this option under another tab. To move around the BIOS, use the arrow keys. Enter will select something. The list of available keys typically located in the bottom right area of your screen. You might be able to use a mouse on the screen on some more modern PCs that have UEFI firmware. Find the boot devices list on the boot order screen. This could be found underneath a boot order option or on the boot tab itself. Press Enter to update a setting, either to remove it altogether or to select a different boot device. The plus and minus keys can also be used to move items up and down the priority list. Following instructions may alter somewhat on various machines. Refer to the keyboard commands list displayed on your screen. Find the Save and Exit screen to save your settings. To save your changes and restart your computer, choose Save Changes and Reset, or Save Changes and Exit, and press Enter. Your PC will restart from the USB drive after you have chosen it from the boot menu and prompt you to process any key to start the setup. You must select the language to install, the time and currency format, and the keyboard or input method at the start of the setup procedure. The majority of the time, you won't need to make any changes here. However, if you do, click the down arrow to bring up a selection of alternatives, and then click the choice you want to select. To proceed, click Next, click Install Now on the following screen. You will momentarily see a screen indicating that the setup is beginning. On the following screen, check the box next to I accept the license terms, then click Next. After choosing the desired version by clicking it, you are prompted to choose the installation type you want to carry out on the next screen. Click Custom, Set up Windows Only, Advanced, because we are performing a new install. After that, decide where Windows 10 will be installed. In the name section, it can say Drive 0 Unlocated Space if your hard drive is fresh new. To employ free hard drive space and isolate apps and files for data security and simple management, we must partition the drive. We would provide 30 gigabytes to the first partition. Keep in mind that 1000 megabytes equals 1 gigabyte. Select Apply. The primary system drive, which houses the operating system, has startup data as well as the boot manager code and boot configuration database in each system reserved partition. The second partition would receive an additional 30 gigabytes of space, while the remaining free space would receive its own partition. Ensure that all partitions, aside from the system's reserved partition, are formatted. Then press Next. The Windows files will then start to install via the wizard. Depending on the hardware you are using, installation may take a while. Your computer will restart after the wizard has completed installing the files. You could get yourself in a boot loop where the computer keeps trying to restart the installation process. The system may be attempting to read from the USB device rather than the hard drive that you installed the OS on, which is why this is happening. Simply take out the USB device and restart the computer if this happens. You can now configure it for either individual usage or business use. You can also add a Microsoft account, but for now, we will go with limited services and offline mode. When your computer asks who will use it, utilize this opportunity to enter the username of your choice. As for the privacy settings, you can pause this video to examine each choice and tweak it on your own. But for now, we will just accept it all. You are now a Windows operating system user.